Lucy Martinez loved the gardens of New Haven Colony more than anything else in the world. The 7-year-old girl spent every morning there after her lessons, running between the tall blue flowers and chasing the small flying creatures that looked like butterflies but glowed with soft light. Today was special because her two best friends were coming to play with her again. Zarathiel arrived first, her long, pointed ears twitching as she looked around for Lucy. The young elf had pale skin that seemed to shine in the sunlight and silver hair that moved like water when she walked. She wore the simple green robes that all elf children wore when they visited other worlds. Lucy waved from behind a large purple bush, and Zarathiel smiled, showing her small white teeth. "Lucy, I brought the story crystals my mother gave me," Zarathiel said in her musical voice. "They have tales of the old forest worlds inside them." Lucy clapped her hands together. "Can we listen to them after Kexara gets here? I want to tell you both a story, too." The insectoid child arrived moments later, her forearms carrying different colored stones that she collected everywhere she went. Kexara's large compound eyes reflected the garden's colors like tiny mirrors, and her thin antennae moved constantly as she smelled the air around her. Her people called her species the Hivekin, but Lucy just called her friend. "The flowers smell different today," Kexara said, her voice making small clicking sounds between words. "More sweet than before." The three friends sat in their usual spot under the big shade tree near the fountain. Lucy pulled out a small book her mother had given her the night before. It had pictures of castles and dragons and brave knights on the cover. "This is a human fairy tale," Lucy said, opening the book carefully. "It's about a princess who makes friends with a dragon instead of fighting it." She read the story slowly, showing her friends the pictures as she went. Zarathiel gasped at the parts where the dragon breathed fire, and Kexara asked many questions about why humans built such tall castles. When Lucy finished, both friends wanted to hear it again. "In elf stories, dragons are wise teachers," Zarathiel said. "They live in crystal caves and know the secrets of growing things." "My people have no dragons," Kexara added, "but we have great flying hunters that are bigger than ships. They help us travel between the star systems." Lucy felt warm inside listening to her friends. She loved learning about their different worlds and people. It made the galaxy seem less big and scary when she knew that children everywhere like to hear stories and play games. "I want to teach you a song my grandmother taught me," Lucy said, standing up and brushing dirt off her dress. "It's about friendship and how it makes everything better." She began to sing in her clear, high voice. The song was simple with words, about holding hands and sharing smiles and never being alone. Zarathiel and Kexara listened carefully, and soon they were humming along with the melody. By the third time through, all three children were singing together, their different voices making a strange but beautiful harmony. They were so busy singing and laughing that they did not notice the two figures watching them from the edge of the garden. Admiral Veltarion of the Silverian fleet stood tall and still like a statue, his ancient face showing no expression as he observed the children. Beside him, Hive Commander Zekthul's massive form blocked out the sun, his armored, shell gleaming black and green. "The violation is clear," Admiral Veltarion said in his cold voice. "The human child spreads her species' cultural contamination to the others." "Agreement," Zekthul replied, his voice buzzing like angry insects. "The cultural purity mandate has been broken. Action must be taken." The two alien commanders stepped into the garden. The children stopped singing and looked up at them with wide eyes. Lucy felt afraid but did not understand why. The tall elf and the giant insect creature looked angry, but she had done nothing wrong. "You are Lucy Martinez," Admiral Veltarion said, pointing one long finger at her. "You have committed crimes against the Galactic Council's laws." "I don't understand," Lucy said, her voice very small. "We were just playing." "Cultural exchange between species is forbidden," Zekthul announced. "You have taught alien children human songs and stories. This corrupts their pure bloodlines and threatens galactic order." Zarathiel jumped to her feet. "She was just being nice to us. Lucy is our friend." "Friendship between species is illegal," Admiral Veltarion said. "The child must be punished as an example to all humans." More soldiers appeared around the garden. Elf warriors with silver armor and energy weapons surrounded the children, while Hivekin troops with their sharp claws and acid weapons blocked all the exits. Lucy looked around in terror as Betty Coleman, the colony administrator, came running. "Toward them! Stop this immediately!" Betty shouted. "She's just a child. She doesn't understand your laws." "Ignorance is no excuse," Admiral Veltarian replied. "The sentence is death. It will be carried out now and broadcast to all human worlds as a warning." Lucy's mother, Maria Martinez, arrived just as the soldiers grabbed her daughter. She screamed and tried to reach Lucy, but the alien troops held her back. Tears ran down Lucy's face as she called for her mother. "Why do you hate me?" Lucy asked the commanders as they dragged her toward their ship. "I just wanted to make friends. I just wanted to share stories." "Your kind threatens the natural order," Zekthul said. "Humans must learn their place in the galaxy." The execution took place on the alien ship in front of cameras that sent the signal across space to every human world. Lucy's last words were a whisper asking why making friends was wrong. When it was over, Admiral Veltarion and Hive Commander Zekthul returned to their fleets, satisfied that they had sent a clear message to humanity about the consequences of breaking galactic law. The news reached Earth exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes after Lucy Martinez died. President Amanda White was eating breakfast with her family when her emergency communicator started screaming alerts that could wake the dead. She looked at the small screen and saw the priority code that meant something terrible had happened to human citizens somewhere in the galaxy. "What is it, Mom?" her teenage daughter asked, but Amanda was already running to her office. The video message was waiting for her on the secure government network. She watched it once, then watched it again to make sure she had seen it correctly. Her hands started shaking as she realized that the Galactic Council had just executed a 7-year-old human child for the crime of making friends with alien children. Amanda called an emergency meeting of her top advisors within the hour. Secretary of Defense Karen Brooks arrived first, her face pale and her eyes red from crying. Fleet Admiral Lisa Thompson came next, still wearing her exercise clothes because she had been pulled out of her morning run. One by one, the most powerful. People in human government gathered in the Situation Room to watch the recording of Lucy's death. Nobody spoke for a long time after the video ended. Karen Brooks was the first to break the silence. "They killed a baby," she whispered. "They killed a little girl for singing a song." "It was a message," Admiral Thompson said, her voice hard as steel. "They wanted to show us what happens when humans don't follow their rules." President White stood up and walked to the big window that looked out over the capital city. Millions of people lived down there, going about their normal lives, not knowing yet that everything had changed. Soon they would all see the video. Soon they would all know that their children could be murdered by aliens for the simple act of being kind. "What are our options?" she asked without turning around. "We can file a formal protest with the Galactic Council," Karen suggested, but her voice sounded like she knew it was useless. "We can withdraw from all alien trade agreements," Admiral Thompson added. "Cut off all contact with their species." "And then what?" Amanda asked, finally turning to face her advisors. "We hide in human space and hope they leave us alone? We let them think they can kill our children whenever they want?" The room fell quiet again. Everyone knew that protests and trade boycotts would not bring Lucy back. They would not stop the aliens from killing more human children in the future. The Galactic Council saw humans as a young and weak species that could be bullied and controlled. Across the galaxy, other humans were having the same terrible realization. Captain Rebecca Stone was commanding the exploration ship USS Defiance on a peaceful survey mission when the news reached her crew. Her engineering officer, Michelle Davis, started crying when she saw the video. Tactical officer Laura Williams punched the wall so hard she broke 2 fingers and didn't even notice. "Captain," Laura said through her tears, "request permission to set course for the nearest alien world." "Denied," Rebecca replied, but her voice was gentle. "I want to make them pay too, but not like this. Not yet." On the industrial world of Armstrong, factory worker Nicole Green was operating heavy machinery when the emergency broadcast came through on every screen in the facility. Production stopped as thousands of workers watched a child die for the crime of friendship. Nicole looked at the little picture of her own daughter that she kept on her workstation and felt something cold and terrible growing in her chest. Similar scenes played out on every human world. Parents held their children closer. Young adults who had never thought about joining the military started looking up recruitment centers. Old veterans who had fought in humanity's border wars began making phone calls to friends they had not spoken to in years. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought killing one child would scare humanity into submission. Instead, they had awakened. Something in the human spirit that had been sleeping since the species first learned to use fire and sharp sticks to protect their young. Dr. Patricia Hayes received a phone call from President White 3 days after Lucy's execution. Patricia ran the Terran Defense Research Division, a small government agency that studied new weapons and defense technologies. She had always struggled to get funding for her projects because most politicians thought her work was too expensive and unnecessary. "Dr. Hayes," the president said, "how much money would you need to build weapons that could destroy entire alien fleets?" "That's a very specific question, Madam President. May I ask why you're interested in such capabilities?" "Because I want to make sure that no alien ever kills another human child," Amanda replied. "I want them to be so afraid of us that they have nightmares about what we might do if they hurt our people." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "Give me unlimited funding and access to every resource in human space, and I can build you weapons that will make the aliens wish they had never learned our species existed." "Done. You have everything you need. How long will it take?" 3 years, Madam President. Maybe less if we work around the clock." The president hung up and immediately called General Helen Murphy, the toughest military commander in human space. "Helen, I need you to start building the largest army humanity has ever seen. I want soldiers, ships, weapons, and anything else we need to teach the galaxy that human children are not to be touched." "What's our timeline?" General Murphy asked. 3 years. "And Helen? I want every alien government to remember this day for the rest of their species' history." Word spread quietly through human space that something big was being planned. Nobody talked about it openly, but everyone knew. Weapons factories started, working triple shifts. Shipyards that had been building civilian vessels switched to military production. Young humans lined up at recruitment centers faster than the military could process them. The aliens congratulated themselves on handling the human problem. They had shown the upstart species their place in the galactic order. They expected humans to become more obedient and respectful now that they understood the consequences of breaking alien laws. They had no idea that humanity was preparing for war. General Helen Murphy had never seen anything like it in her 30 years of military service. Every human world was working together with a single purpose that scared and amazed her at the same time. Factories that had never built weapons before were producing advanced military equipment. Civilian engineers were designing new types of warships. Even children were collecting scrap metal to help the war effort. The project was called Operation Silent Thunder, and it was the largest military build-up in galactic history. Helen coordinated everything from a secret base hidden inside an asteroid in the Outer Rim. Admiral Sandra Lewis commanded the new deep space fleet that was being built in shipyards scattered across 100 star systems. "Status report," Helen said as she walked into the main command center. The room was filled with officers from every branch of human military service, all working on different parts of the massive operation. "Shipyard 7 has completed another 10 destroyers," Admiral Lewis reported. "Shipyard 15 finished their first battleship yesterday. We now have over 8,000 vessels of various classes ready for combat." "Weapons development?" Commander Ashley Rodriguez looked up from her tactical displays. "Dr. Hayes' team achieved another breakthrough last week. The new quantum disruptors can completely destroy alien matter at the molecular level. One shot from our new weapons can turn an entire enemy ship into cosmic dust." Helen nodded. The quantum disruptors were humanity's secret advantage. Alien technology was advanced, but it relied on the same basic principles of physics that humans understood. Dr. Hayes had found a way to weaponize quantum mechanics in ways that alien science had never considered. "Training progress?" Major Jennifer Clark smiled grimly. "We have 2 million soldiers ready for deployment, another million in advanced training. Every human who volunteers passes our psychological tests for determination and anger control. They all want to make the aliens pay for what they did to Lucy." While humans prepared for war, the alien powers of the Galactic Council went about their normal business. They had no idea that humanity was building the tools for their destruction. The aliens were too confident in their own superiority to imagine that the young human species could threaten them. Counselor Ael Indra of the High Elves was discussing trade policies in the council chambers when her aide brought news of increased human industrial activity. The humans seem to be building more ships than usual, the aide reported. Our intelligence suggests they are expanding their merchant fleet. Typical human greed, Ael Indra replied with a dismissive wave of her hand. They probably want to make more money from trade now that they understand their place in the galaxy. Let them build their little cargo ships. Supreme Overlord Vakmor of the Draconian Empire was equally unconcerned when his spies reported strange energy readings from human space. The humans are probably experimenting with new power sources for their primitive technology, he told his military advisors. Their science is thousands of years behind ours. Whatever they are building cannot possibly threaten the Draconian fleet. The aliens' arrogance was exactly what humanity was counting on. Intelligence officer Samantha Taylor and her team of agents had spent 3 years gathering information about every alien military base, government facility, and important leader in the galaxy. They knew the exact location of every alien fleet. They had detailed maps of every alien homeworld. They knew which alien leaders made the decisions and where those leaders lived. The elf military keeps their main fleet in orbit around their capital world, Samantha reported to General Murphy during one of their weekly briefings. They have never moved it because they believe nothing can threaten their homeworld. The Hivekin have spread their forces across 50 star systems, added intelligence analyst Linda Scott, but they keep their queen and ruling council on their primary nest world. If we can strike there first, their entire command structure will collapse. What about the Draconians? Helen asked. Overconfident, Samantha replied. They keep most of their fleet close to home to show off their power. They have never faced an enemy that could match their technology, so they have no defensive strategies for a real war. Engineer Christina Moore was working on the most secret part of Operation Silent Thunder. Her team had been given unlimited resources to develop new weapons that would give humanity an overwhelming advantage in battle. The quantum disruptors were just the beginning. We've successfully tested the planet crackers, Christina reported, during a secure video call with President White. One weapon can destabilize the core of an entire world. But, Madam President, I have to ask if you really want us to build devices that can destroy planets. I want the aliens to surrender before we have to use them, Amanda replied. But if they force us to choose between their worlds and the safety of human children, there is no choice at all. Christina understood. The planet crackers would only be used if the aliens refused to surrender after humanity demonstrated their new power. The hope was that the alien governments would realize they were completely outmatched and agree to peace terms before billions of innocent beings died. Captain Megan Anderson was training her crew for the assault on the Silverian homeworld. Her new battleship USS Vengeance was equipped with the latest human weapons and crewed by volunteers who had all lost someone to alien violence over the years. Remember, she told her officers during their final briefing, we are not fighting to conquer or destroy. We are fighting to make sure that no alien ever again thinks they can murder human children without consequences. Captain Diana Miller had a similar conversation with her crew as they prepared to attack the Hivekin nest worlds. Her ship USS Justice carried weapons that could burn through Hivekin armor like it was paper. 3 years after Lucy Martinez died, for the crime of making friends, humanity was ready to show the galaxy what happened when humans were pushed too far. The alien powers had no idea what was coming. They thought they ruled the galaxy through fear and superior technology. They were about to learn that there was something in the universe more dangerous than their weapons or their ancient arrogance. They were about to face the wrath of a species that would sacrifice everything to protect their children. Operation Silent Thunder was ready to begin. Admiral Stephanie Johnson stood on the bridge of the massive human flagship USS Retribution and watched as 10,000 human warships prepared to emerge from hyperspace. Today was the 3rd anniversary of Lucy Martinez's execution, and humanity was finally ready to collect the debt that the galaxy owed them. All fleets report ready, her communications officer announced. Operation Silent Thunder is green across all target systems. Begin the attack, Stephanie said calmly. For Lucy, Across 100 star systems, human fleets appeared without warning. Years of careful planning and intelligence gathering paid off as humanity struck every major alien military base, government center, and fleet concentration at exactly the same moment. The aliens had no time to warn each other or coordinate their defenses. Captain Megan Anderson led the assault on the Silverian homeworld, where Admiral Veltarion had his headquarters. Her fleet of 200 ships dropped out of hyperspace directly above the capital city, where the elf government met to make their laws about species purity. Target the orbital defense platforms first, Megan ordered. Then move to the fleet, anchorage. The Silverian defenses were impressive by the standards of 3 years ago. Force fields that could stop any known weapon protected their ships and bases. Energy weapons that could burn through any known armor armed their military vessels. But humanity had spent 3 years developing technology that the aliens had never imagined. The first quantum disruptor blast turned an entire Silverian battlecruiser into glowing particles. The second shot destroyed their primary orbital station, so completely that not even debris remained. Within minutes, the proud Silverian fleet was nothing but expanding clouds of cosmic dust. "Incoming transmission from the surface," Megan's communications officer reported. "Admiral Veltarion wants to speak with you." The elf admiral appeared on the screen, his ancient face showing shock and fear for the first time in centuries. Behind him, his command center was filled with panicking officers trying to understand how their invincible fleet had been destroyed so quickly. "What do you want?" Veltarion demanded. "Why are you attacking us?" "You killed Lucy Martinez," Megan replied, "a 7-year-old child who wanted nothing more than to make friends. Today you pay for that crime." "One human child for our entire fleet? This is madness." "This is justice," Megan corrected him. "And this is only the beginning." Meanwhile, Captain Diana Miller was demonstrating humanity's new weapons against the Hivekin nest worlds. The insectoid aliens had always believed their armor was the strongest in the galaxy. They learned differently when human plasma cannons burned through their defenses like they were made of paper. Hive Commander Zekthul watched his massive warships die from his command center deep inside the primary nest world. The quantum disruptors were especially effective against Hivekin technology because the insects had built everything from organic materials that the human weapons could completely destabilize. "Impossible," Zekthul buzzed as another of his dreadnoughts vanished in a flash of light. "Human weapons cannot do this." "Evidently they can," his aide replied, watching their fleet disappear one ship at a time. Fleet Commander Tara Wilson was assigned the task of destroying the Draconian Empire's home fleet. The reptilian aliens had the largest and most advanced military in the galaxy, but they had made the mistake of keeping most of their ships in one location to show off their power. "Fire the experimental weapon," Tara ordered as her fleet surrounded the Draconian formation. The new quantum disruptor cannon was the size of a small ship and required an entire battleship to carry it. When it fired, the beam of destructive energy passed through the entire Draconian 6th Fleet and reduced 200 warships to elementary particles in less than 10 seconds. Supreme Overlord Vakmor felt his throne room shake as human weapons bombarded his palace from orbit. The proud Draconian leader who had ruled his empire for 300 years was reduced to cowering behind his desk as human marines landed outside his building. "Your empire is finished," the human commander told him when the soldiers broke down his door. "Your fleets are destroyed. Your worlds are under our control. You have lost everything because you thought you could murder human children without consequences." The attack was over in less than 12 hours. Centuries of alien military power were swept away by humanity's overwhelming technological advantage and perfect coordination. Every major alien fleet was destroyed. Every important government building was captured or reduced to rubble. Every alien leader who had supported Lucy's execution was either dead or in human custody. The message that humanity broadcast to the surviving alien populations was simple and direct. President Amanda White appeared on every communication channel in the galaxy to deliver it personally. 3 years ago, your leaders executed a human child named Lucy Martinez, she said, her voice carrying to every world in space. They killed her for the crime of making friends with alien children. They did this to send a message to humanity about our place in the galaxy. Today, humanity sends our reply. We have destroyed your fleets. We have captured your governments. We have proven that your technology and your ancient power mean nothing when faced with human determination. This is what happens when you threaten our children. This is what happens when you mistake human kindness for human weakness. Remember this day, because if you ever again harm an innocent human child, we will not stop at destroying your military forces. We will end your civilizations completely. The broadcast ended with footage of Lucy Martinez playing in the garden with her alien friends, followed by images of the massive human fleets that now controlled alien space. The message was clear to everyone who saw it. Humanity had become the most powerful force in the galaxy, and they had done it for the simple purpose of protecting their children. In the ruins of alien government centers across 100 worlds, the surviving leaders finally understood what they had awakened when they decided to make an example of one innocent human child. They had created an enemy more dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen, driven by a love for their young that no alien species had ever fully comprehended. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of human protection had begun. 6 months after the Day of Reckoning, Supreme Commander Rachel Thompson stood in what had once been the Galactic Council chambers. The ornate building that had housed alien governments for thousands of years was now the headquarters of the Human Protection Authority. Where alien leaders had once made laws about species purity and cultural contamination, human officials worked to build a new kind of galactic civilization. Status report on the reconstruction efforts, Rachel said as she walked into the main conference room. Ambassador Carol Davis looked up from her data tablets. The former Silverian worlds have agreed to the new interspecies friendship accords. They've abolished all laws restricting contact between different species. Their children can now learn about other cultures without fear of punishment. What about the Hiveken territories? Complete compliance, Carol replied. The surviving Nest Queens understand that their species' survival depends on following our new rules. They've already started cultural exchange programs with human colonies. And the Draconians? The most resistant, but they're coming around. The destruction of their entire fleet convinced most of their leaders that cooperation is better than extinction. Rachel nodded. The reconstruction was going better than anyone had expected. Most alien species had quickly realized that human rule was actually more fair and reasonable than the old Galactic Council had been. The humans had not conquered for the sake of power or wealth. They had fought to create a galaxy where children, of all species, could grow up safely. Colonial Administrator Emma Roberts was overseeing the rebuilding of the major alien worlds. Unlike the old galactic powers that had ruled through fear and oppression, humanity was helping their former enemies create better societies for their people. The elves are adapting well to the new system, Emma reported during her weekly briefing. Their children are already learning human languages and songs. The adult elves seem happy that their young ones can express curiosity about other species without breaking any laws. The Hivekin have requested human teachers for their larvae, added Education Coordinator Susan Phillips. They want their children to learn about friendship and cooperation from the species that values those things most. Captain Victoria Martinez walked through the gardens of New Haven Colony where her little sister had played 3 years earlier. The memorial statue of Lucy stood near the fountain, surrounded by flowers planted by children from dozens of different species. Elf children, Hivekin larvae, draconian hatchlings, and human kids all played together in the same place where Lucy had died for the crime of making friends. Victoria had joined the military the day after Lucy's execution. She had commanded a battleship during Operation Silent Thunder and personally accepted the surrender of the Silverian fleet. Now she worked to make sure that her sister's dream of interspecies friendship became reality across the galaxy. The Memorial Foundation is working perfectly, Victoria told Director Julia Adams as they watched the children play. We've established centers on every major world where kids can learn about other species safely. Lucy would be proud, Julia replied. Her death united humanity in a way that nothing else could have. And her dream of friendship between species is finally coming true. The new galactic government was very different from the old Galactic Council. Instead of a few powerful species ruling over everyone else, each world had an equal voice in making decisions. Instead of laws about species purity, there were protections for all children, regardless of what planet they came from. Instead of punishment for cultural exchange, there were rewards for learning about other ways of life. Dr. Patricia Hayes had become the galaxy's leading expert on defensive technology. Her weapons research had made human military supremacy possible, but now she focused on using the same science to protect all species from outside threats. "The early warning network is complete," Patricia reported to President White during their monthly security briefing. "If any hostile force enters our galaxy, we'll detect them long before they can threaten any inhabited worlds." "What about the planet crackers?" Amanda asked. "Are they still necessary?" "I hope not, Madam President. But they remain available if we ever face an enemy that threatens to destroy worlds full of innocent people. The galaxy's children are under human protection now, and we will use any weapon necessary to keep them safe." The transformation of galactic society was remarkable to observe. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years were now working together on scientific projects and cultural exchanges. Children who had never been allowed to meet beings from other worlds were forming friendships that would last their entire lives. Former Admiral Veltarion spent his remaining years in a comfortable prison on Earth, writing memoirs about the fall of elf supremacy. He had come to understand that his species' belief in their own superiority had blinded them to the strength that came from unity and friendship. The humans had not defeated the elves through superior technology alone. They had won because they fought for something more important than power or pride. "I realize now that the human child was right," Veltarion wrote in his final journal entry. "Friendship between species was never a threat to galactic order. It was the foundation of a better kind of civilization than we had ever imagined." Zekthul had died during the human assault on his command center, but the surviving Hivecan leaders made sure their larvae learned the story of Lucy Martinez. The little human girl, who had wanted nothing more than to make friends, became a legend among the insectoid people, a symbol of the courage it took to reach across the barriers between species. 10 years after Operation Silent Thunder, the galaxy was a place that Lucy Martinez would have loved to explore. Human ships traveled between the stars carrying teachers and doctors instead of weapons. Alien children learned human songs while human kids discovered the stories and games of dozens of different species. The cultural purity mandate was remembered, only as a warning about what happened when fear was allowed to overcome compassion. President Amanda White, now nearing the end of her term in office, often visited the Memorial Garden on New Haven Colony. She would sit by Lucy's statue and watch the children play, remembering the little girl whose death had changed everything. "Did we do the right thing?" she asked General Helen Murphy during one of these visits. Helen looked at the mixed groups of children running and laughing together. "We gave them the galaxy that Lucy dreamed of," she replied. "A place where being different is celebrated instead of feared. A place where children can make friends without worrying about breaking laws or disappointing their elders." "Then yes," Amanda said, "we did exactly the right thing." The galaxy learned that day that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology. It was their absolute commitment to protecting the innocent and their willingness to sacrifice everything to ensure that children could grow up in a world where friendship was possible across any barrier.